What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? I thought this would be a fun project as well as something that would help add value to your current offerings of your t-shirts, party favors, etc. So, we're going to do this coloring page, and although we did some AI artwork on AI 14, AI 15, we did some colorful chibi art. I'm going to show you how to convert that into a coloring page style artwork. And then also we created some of the images that are automatically coloring images. And I'll show you how to do some magic with those and create some composites with some of those elements that you all created. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Most of you have a Chibi character, and if you do not, for this class, I will be giving you all some sample files, some sample AI artwork that you can use. So let's go ahead and change this out. I want us to scroll all the way up to the top on this file. And you'll see there's a cartoon image and color number 1 and color number 2. And then you'll change out the text. This is a super simple template. However, it's going to be able to help you maneuver really fast through these projects where you may be having to make your own custom coloring books or activity pages or even a coloring shirt. So that may be an activity that you want to incorporate. All right, so first we're going to go ahead and change out our Chibi image here. And we'll just double click. We'll right click on it first just to see our color cartoon image. And then we'll double click on the image. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and change out the image here. So we can do File, Place Embedded. And I've given you all some images to play with. So let's go ahead and do this one here, which it is a superhero Lego-ish character. So we're going to go ahead and place that. I'll bring it on top here, and I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. Then I'll go ahead and turn off the image that we had before. Let's close out and hit yes to save. All right, and you'll see that instantly on the left-hand side. What I want you to pay attention to is that it's going to automatically grayscale it and make it somewhat look like the line art that you want, but there will be some adjustments that you have to make. So what we're going to practice in class today is working with some of those adjustments and getting the final effect that you want. So in order to get this as a black and white image here, I want to go ahead and change some of these levels here. So I have a level above and below the main folder where the character is. And you'll have to play with double clicking on this one where the levels are, and just kind of sliding these to where it's giving you the preference that you want. So this is playing with your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. All right. Now what this is also doing is it's giving you the ability to further tweak this. So the first part that you're doing is you're going to kind of add a little deepness to the shadows, add a little deepness to the outlines here. And then what you're doing on top of that is you are taking the midtones and pushing them closer to the left, which is making the midtones lighter. So this is actually 2 different levels happening at one time. So you get an experience tonight playing with those in order to get your coloring image. So I want y'all to know that you don't have to always find an exact color image. You can make your own. However, it is going to have some slight shading to it depending on how colorful and how shaded the original image is. But in an instant, you can pretty much make a coloring page from a character just like we did in the Chibi class. Now with that as well, you probably want to change out this background. So I have included a background here for you, but I wanted to show you exactly how I created that background. So that was AI as well, but it wasn't quite this large and it wasn't quite that extended. So what I want to show you is how you can do that in Midjourney, and also how you can do this kind of extension of the background into the Photoshop program. So let me see if it is possible to bring this on over from the class that we did earlier. So these are some of the outputs here. I want to go to the character that is upscaled here. And what I'm going to do is tell it that I want to move over to the left a little bit here. So I'm going to move to the left and tell it okay. And what's going to happen is it's going to attempt to draw out the image to the left in order to just fill in that space. Is going to generate something there. But I don't know what it's going to do. We don't know what it's going to come up with. However, it will give reference to the original part of the image that we wanted. So while that's going here, I'm going to also show you how we developed some of the other images here as well. So today I did some coloring book images that we may put into our interior of our coloring book. Right now we're designing the cover, but I also wanted you to know that you can create literal coloring pages effortlessly with AI. All right, so let me check back on that image there, see if it's ready. It's still pulling. Oh, this is funny. It actually put some different types of characters there. This is actually pretty cool here. I'm going to show you how I did this. This is more of what I was looking for, image number 2. So I'll take image number 2 and I'll upscale it. All right, and what's going to happen here is I'm going to use this kind of extended area for my background. So I'll click on it, open in browser, and I'll download it. Now, of course, you're not doing this in class. You already have your image and you already have your background. I'm just showing you a little extra of how you can achieve some results using AI with your Photoshop skills. Okay. Now, how this one was created was I went and I have this in the folder that you all are going to get with the class. So these are some of the sample files you'll get. If you see here, the image that we use in the background is actually not that great of a sketched image, but this was generated with Photoshop, just kind of extending those sketch lines out to the left. And it makes for a great background for the book so that we don't have to do one of those solid color backs of the books. We can kind of continue that image. Okay, and then we did the same exact thing here. For this Valentine's image I'll show you in a little bit, we removed the internal part of the design. Then we extended it to the left so that we could get the left side of the book on there. So that's just a tip. If you're making a book and you don't want to do a solid color to the left, then you can use generative fill to extend the image to the left and it'll give you a continuation of that image. So let's get an idea of how that may work. Let's go ahead and open this one. I haven't done this one yet. I'm curious to see what it's going to turn out to be. What I'm going to do is before I even get started with this, I'm going to remove my character here. So I'm taking the lasso tool and I'm going to go around so that it understands that I do want to cut this character out. And I'm just using my mouse here just to give it a quick contour. All right, and at that point, I'm going to hit generative fill and generate, and hopefully it will understand that I want to remove the character right now. Let's just give that a moment to process. Perfect. And it gives you some options when you do generative fill. So you all can go ahead and get this done before class so that you have this ready, because we're not going to do the AI during class. Normally, it takes a lot of computing power. And if you're doing Zoom screen share and your AI, it may cause some difficulties for your computer. So I would tell you to go ahead and do that ahead of time. All right, so I think I'm going to go with number 3 here. And what I'll do is I'll right click and merge it down. Now I still need a little bit more imagery to the top and the bottom here. So what I'll do is I'll go to my cropping tool And then you can make sure that up top it says generative expand, and it will automatically do the generative fill here. So I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt while I pull this up. And then I'll go ahead and hit enter. From there is going to guess what I want to put in those empty spaces there, or in this case, in those blue spaces. I think it did fairly well here, and I need it to be a little bit wider for my cover as well. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm clicking on here with my cropping tool enabled. I'm going to hold down, and this time, because I know that I want my image centered here where the highlight is, I feel like I just need a little more to the left, and I don't want to pull it out to the right. Well, if that's the case, I can just pull it out in this direction and hit enter or generate. And that way, when I'm creating a book, the right side is going to be my front cover and the left side is going to be my back cover. And that's just how it is whenever you're printing the full set and you're going to fold it. So this looks good to me. Again, I'm going to go ahead and I'll double click here so that I can change that to a regular layer. And then I'm going to merge down, and merge down again. And I didn't check my options here. I actually think, no, I wasn't looking at the top. I think 3 is good. Let's go ahead and merge that down. Perfect. And now we can go ahead and save this. I'm going to save this as super background or BG. I can go ahead and quick export that as a PNG and put this right here in the sample folder for you. So you'll have the original background and the one that I just did live. And then I do not need to save that. But what I would do is I would select the background layer. So this background layer will be activated for you all. I'm going to remove these from here, but I'll give them to you in the folder so you can practice pulling these elements in. So I would be on the castle layer and I would go File, Place Embedded. And then I would grab the background image. And let's pull it up by the center here. And I'm going to make sure it's hanging off a little bit because I do want it to have a bleed there. I'll hit enter to lock in the transformation. And here I can adjust my left side so that it looks like my front cover has the central image. And then to the left side, it's just a little bit of an extension of that image. Otherwise, I would have to kind of make something up or put a solid color in the background here. So I really like that we have that generative fill feature. Now next, I'm going to select the colors that I want for the design. And we call those smart colors because we're using smart objects with colors inside of them in order to uniformly and universally change our colors of our design. So what I want to do is grab my color picker tool here, and I'm going to pick a red from his uniform. And then I'm going to pick this darker blue here from the background. So now I have 2 contrasting colors. And I want to go ahead and change out my smart colors. So let's go to our swatches. We'll see that the red and the blue end up right here. We'll go to color number 1. And I like to duplicate the layer so that I can keep my existing color. And then let's make color number 1 the red. We'll close out of this and hit yes. And you'll see that everywhere the darker pink was should now be red. And where the lighter pink is, we're going to double click on that, duplicate that layer, and change that to the darker blue. Hit yes to save. All right. So I do also want to encourage you, if you have wording that you want to keep, like the text saying happy birthday, Princess Diamond, and you want to keep that set, what I would do is take this entire folder of the text here and duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate it. And that's what I would change. So fortunately, I already have a duplicated version here with kind of a comic book type of font here. So I think you'll appreciate that. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to change the text. It's super simple. I don't even have to know where the text is. If I zoom in just a little bit here, I'm going to right click on any of the text, and you want to right click on the meat of the text. I'm going to go to happy birthday and see how it will automatically open it up here in my layers panel. All right, I'm going to double click on the T here. If I were going to put anything else other than happy birthday, I could double click and type the text here. So I'll show you the example for the name here. So let's leave it happy birthday. And I'm going to double click on the T for Michael. And then I'll put Travis. Okay. This just shows you how simple it is to go in and change the text. The colors are automatically applied here based on what we had previously, but you can swap out between color number 1 and color number 2. I think that would also give you the ability to just use 1 or 2 colors, keep it simple, and move through your designs faster. Now, if somebody really wants more than 1 or 2 colors, you can absolutely add another color here. I'll just do a solid color and show you how that works. And let's add a color that we don't see. I'm going to tap on this gold right here using my color picker tool, and it automatically uses the color picker tool whenever you come onto the graphic from this color selection area. So that gold looks good to me. So if I wanted a third color, or I wanted to kind of throw in a splash of some extra colors, that's how I would do it. All right, this is looking pretty good to me. If I want to change out the number here, I can right click and click on the number 4, and maybe he's not turning 4, maybe he's turning 6. Okay, so we can double click on that, change the text there. There's also a pattern layer here. So if you like this pattern, you can keep it on. If you don't, you can turn it off. And I want you to know that when you use the colors, and in this case, we're using the color type of fill or blend mode, then you may end up having to change the levels in order to get the type of color that you want. So if you have a pastel color, then you may have to adjust the levels to be lighter. If you have a really deep, like navy blue color, you would have to adjust the levels to be darker. And again, you just click on the levels here, just like we did for the comic book art, where we wanted it to look like a coloring page. Then all we're doing is just shifting those midtones there, and it's giving us some deeper colors there. Now, as far as the pattern goes, you can also double click on the pattern and change the scale of it. So if I want it to be a really large pattern or a slightly smaller pattern, I'll put in 50% so you can see what it looks like smaller. And of course, if you have patterns, you can change those out. I have several classes where I teach you all how to make patterns from scratch, or how to get patterns from online and use them inside of Photoshop. So you'll notice that the princess design has a flower pattern or floral pattern inside. This one has like the elephant skin, kind of like the Jordans inside of it, just to give you a little texture, but you can obviously turn it off and use the flat text as well. And you'll also notice that on the left-hand side, which is the back of the book, normally this is going to be more for a party favor. I will do another class way more in depth on how to create books that you can actually publish, for instance, through Amazon, KDP, and publish your own books, and then they have to be formatted a certain way. This is more for a party favor. So it's saying, thank you for celebrating with me. And then you'll be able to change out the text the same way you did on the front. You'll be able to change it out on the back. And then also what I want to show you, when you get your cartoon image, your coloring page from your cartoon, I'm going to suggest that you right click, duplicate the group, and then go ahead and turn it, merge the group so that it turns into its own PNG. This way you have a flattened version of it. So what's going to happen is every time you do a different image, and I'm going to flip the image right now and show you. Every time I flip this image, so now it is no longer our superhero. Now we're going to turn it off, or actually let's leave it on so we can place the next image in the right place. Let's place embedded, and we'll switch this one out for one of our scary characters here. Let's go with our little Kruger. We'll go ahead and place him and drag him up. Turn off the previous layer here. And the only reason why we're using a smart object here is so that I can immediately show you how recoloring or how to adjust the image exactly from the image that we started with. So you'll see that the settings that we previously had set are pretty good here. However, you may feel like, oh, I think it's a little too much gray in his sweater. So let me go to one of these levels and start adjusting. So I'll go to the top level. That's the easiest one to start with. And I'll start moving my midtones. And I see that I'm getting a little bit of resistance in that gray there. So I'll come down here to the second levels that I have set up. And I can play here with, again, my highlights, my midtones, and my shadows. And I'm getting my shadows a little darker here because I want where it's black to be deeper. And then I also want to make sure that I don't lose some of the details in the skin, because I think that's what makes it really noticeable that it's our scary character. All right, so now that I have it adjusted there where I get my darkness about how I want it, now I'll come up here and I'm going to play with my midtones to see how much shading I want or how much lightness I want. Now I can get it exactly white, pulling it all the way to the left, but to me, it just looks a little too harsh, like a copy, like an old Xerox copy. And I'm also able to pull the white all the way from the right to get a little bit brighter too and get that effect. So you can leave a little bit of shading. I suggest that the little bit of shading does look better to me. However, if you want it to be completely black and white, that is how you would achieve that. And when you have it where you want it, like I said, it's going to be different. Every single image you bring in is going to have a different amount of shading and shadows and highlights. So you're going to have to duplicate that group. Then you're going to merge that group. And now you have your coloring page that is specifically for that character with those settings. Now, I'll suggest here to you the one that I really like is actually more shaded. So I like it more shaded. I feel like when you color on top of it, it's going to have shading, but I wanted to show you both methods depending on how you wanted to create your coloring book. All right. And with that one, I also have some text on here for you. It says, "You're my dream come true." And for this one, I did the background very similar to how I showed you the superhero background. So I'm not going to do those steps again. I'm just going to show you that you'll have this background available to file, place embedded, and it does not have any image in the middle. So you can use whatever Chibi character you want there, and that will be your background. Now, of course, if you have an alternate background you want to bring in, go ahead and have it prepared, and then that way you can do a different change out from the files that I'm going to give you. All right, so I'm going to take this back to our princess theme because I want to show you, although we weren't making the interior pages, I figured I would set one up just so that you would have an idea of how to set up the interior pages. And again, see how the image changed totally different depending on the same settings that we had for the other character. On this character, look extremely harsh. So this was the other reason why I told you to go ahead and duplicate first. Duplicate that folder, because if you merge it and then you keep moving forward, you will not have these options anymore. So you're going to duplicate it, then merge it, and then you will have a PNG version of that. If you're scared to duplicate and merge, you can always just right click, quick export as PNG. It will create a PNG wherever you save it, and then you can bring that in as an independent image. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to change these settings back that work best for our princess. And I'm just pretty much freestyling this because I don't know what the settings should be. I have to check this for every individual image. So I'm pulling out some of the midtones and the shadows so that I can get more of a lighter image that can be colored in. And here I'm just determining how much of my image I want to have filled in with the shadows. And you see, as I'm pulling this, I'm getting a little bit harsher lines where I want the outlines. And then again, if I wanted to look more like a photocopy, I could pull it there, but I particularly prefer for it to have a little bit of the shading. It looks more advanced to me. It looks nicer. Okay, so this right here makes me happy. I can go ahead and duplicate this group, and then I'll merge that group. Okay, so now I have my coloring book copy. I can go ahead and activate my previous text there. And of course I have to change my colors back because I want it to be the pink color. So I'm going to pull that on top. And you'll see instantly it should change that red to pink. And then for the second color, I had a lighter pink. All right. And for the background image, I'm going to give you these background images. So I am going to delete these out. So the file won't be large for no reason. Okay, so now I have my princess background here. This was also generated with AI and extended to the left in order to give us some imagery on the back side of the book. So now what I want to do is I want to go over how to work with some of your images for your interior pages. So this would be with images that you are given. Now, we're not going to import images in here. You're going to use exactly these images in class because there are some steps that I want you to learn. Okay. And with these steps, it's going to help you understand how to use Photoshop better. So I'm going to delete all of my hard work that I did for you previously. And I'm going to show you how to do these effects from scratch. So I'm just deleting these layers because we're going to build them up again. All right, so I've already placed some images here, and this is pretty much what Midjourney or Dolly 3 or any other of the AI art generators are going to help you create. This is line art. We told it to create the coloring book style, so it did give us coloring book style. However, if we wanted to create a compilation, which here is basically just a few different images, we want it to look cohesive, so that's what we're going to work with right now. I'm going to go ahead and clear that layer style too. All right, so first we're going to start with our princess here. I'm going to bring her towards the center of the page, and as you can see, she has a white background around her. So we're going to use the magic wand tool. If you don't see it, hold down on your selection tool, choose the magic wand, and make sure that you have contiguous selected. So contiguous is checked so that it's only going to select things that are touching. Now I'm going to click here in the white space. I'm going to also click Shift and select all the additional white space on the outside of the image. And then I'm going to do select inverse. Now by selecting the inverse and select inverse. Okay, so by selecting the inverse, now my inside meat of my image is selected. And there may be some other things that I want to get rid of. And I believe I don't want this extra stuff here. So I'm going to use my lasso tool. So this is teaching you a little bit about some of these tools on the side that you may have been afraid to use. Now here, I'm not going to add to my selection, which is here at the top. I want to subtract from my selection, or I can hold down Alt on my keyboard and it would also turn into a minus symbol. So I want to tell it that I don't want that stuff right there. So these little extra stars right here, we're going to make sure that we're either holding down Alt or we have the subtraction selection selected here. And then that way it won't give me these external artifacts. So I feel like it's good right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave this color on for you all too. Right? So what's going to happen is when I'm on this art layer, when I'm on this particular layer here, I'm going to now create a layer mask. So I'm hitting the rectangle with the circle in the middle. And I see that I did pretty good here, but I'm missing the inside of the arm. So I'm going to come here with my magic wand tool and I'm going to select just that inside there. Now, make sure that you are on the layer mask and not the image. If you're on the layer mask and you happen to have your black in the foreground and you hit delete, nothing is going to happen. But if you hit the switcheroo button, get the white in the foreground down here on your foreground color there, and then I hit delete, it didn't really delete any pixels. What it did was it turned that area of the layer mask black, which hides that part of the image. So if we remember with our layer mask, black reveals and white reveals and black conceals. So that's our general rule of thumb there. And I think everything here looks good to go. Now what happens is when I move my princess around and I want to put her in whatever side or element, then it looks like it is a part of the image. It doesn't look like it has a block around it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this color fill here because I have this blend mode for the castle on multiply, and that's so that you can see if there's any color missing from here. Well, we also see that when you develop your images in AI, sometimes it's going to have a little bit of color and a little bit of shade. So let's correct that right now. We're going to, with this princess, we're going to go ahead and create an adjustment layer. This one will be black and white because first we want to turn it black and white. Okay, now you'll see that it covers the whole image, but we only want that to apply to this princess. We'll right click and create a clipping mask. That way only the princess is now in black and white from this option we just selected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a levels to that as well. Okay, so I usually give you templates with levels in them, but I want you to learn how to create your own levels. So let's go here to the adjustments and let's choose levels. Again, it is not clipped down to this image, so we're going to right click and create a clipping mask. So now your levels and your black and white adjustment layer should be attached to the princess. And we can double click here on the levels and I can pull it up or down and you'll see the shading in her face and in her hair is getting lighter. So if you want to be able to apply these concepts, I'm also moving the shadows to the right a little bit to make my outlines a little darker. And now she looks a little bit easier to color whatever skin tone you want her to be. Alternatively, we could have deleted the color or recolored it with the base white. But because these are bitmap images and not vector images, you're not guaranteed to get a clean fill. So this is my best method for showing you how to do that very quickly. All right. And then what you all will do is you'll go ahead and do the same thing for the crown here. Very simple step here. Leave your pink layer activated. You're going to take your magic wand, come on the outside here of the crown, and then also come on the outside of the entire image. select inverse, and you'll see I'm moving faster now because it's the same exact steps. Then I hit the layer mask, and now I have a crown I can use here. Okay, so I could make this bigger so that it's more of like an activity to color. I could also put on here, this book belongs to, and maybe that's my page 1 and that's my page 4. This is basically the inside part, which is page 2 and 3. I'll teach you about making books later as far as how the numbering system works, and that all books pretty much have to be counted in pages of 4. And usually the inside is going to be what they call the centerfold. So that's why this says page 2 and 3, because this is basically the inside of, if you were to take an 8.5 by 11-inch paper, folded in half, this would be kind of like that activity sheet. All right, and now what I'll do is I'll just turn off this color fill layer here. And now this looks like something that might be inside of a coloring book, or maybe even an activity sheet or a placemat that you're going to make for the event. And one last thing I'm going to do, and I'll keep this in here for you all. And then I'm going to have a page that tells you to do it, like do it yourself. And then I'll keep this one already done for you just so you see what the result's supposed to look like. But I'm going to go ahead and grab some text from over here. I'm going to alt click and drag it up into my interior page. Now, usually when you're printing the inside of your coloring books, it's going to be black and white. It's not going to be full color. So same thing here. I have this black and white and this levels layer. Because I'm smart, I'm going to just alt click and drag both of those right above this happy birthday, and I'm going to go ahead and create a clipping mask. So anything inside of this folder is now going to be black and white, and it's going to allow me to control the levels. So here I can go ahead and I can have the same exact text here if I want. Or you can put, something different in there, like let the kids write their name, like this. This book belongs to Princess, and then let them write their name there. That will probably be a pretty cool thing, but I'm going to keep it simple. And here, if I wanted to take out, you'll see that there is a gradient here. So I'm going to go to the FX. You can turn that gradient overlay off if you want it to look flat. And the other thing that I would do here is go ahead and create a solid color here. So I'll do a color overlay of white, because if you're doing a pure coloring book, you want it to be white. It has a white stroke around it. You probably don't want that additional white stroke, so you can turn that off. And now this layer style is more appropriate for us doing the inside of the coloring book where it's black and white. So I can copy that layer style. And now I can paste it on the number 4. Right click and paste layer style. For the princess, I like the gradient in it, but I'm just letting you know, sometimes if you don't want the gradient, there is a visual difference between taking the gradients out and letting it be more flat, so that it does appear more like a traditional coloring book. So this, I'll tell you what, I'll leave the gradients on this one, and I'll take the gradient off of Happy Birthday. So whichever one you choose, you'll just be able to right click, copy the layer style, and then paste it. All right, so I'm going to move this text a little bit here. And because inside of the book, we're not applying the color, we can actually take off the smart colors here. And of course, you can change this text to whatever you want it to be. But that is it, my love. So this is a template, but it's also a practice tutorial on having you do some different steps that you're going to need to learn how to do if you want to create your own coloring books. Now, like I said, we'll get a little more in depth with this in the future of how to create the interior pages. And I would not do that in Photoshop. I would actually do that outside of Photoshop. But everything else, like I'm showing you here, these steps I would absolutely do inside of Photoshop, because these are the steps that are going to require more advanced editing techniques. And then once you bring them into a program like Canva or Publisher, some type of layout program, then you'll be able to easily define what you want on each page. All right, well, I think I am done with this one. I'm happy with the inside of my book. I'm going to go ahead and close up the interior and also close up the cover. And if I were getting ready to print this, I would not print it from this file. I would right click, quick export as PNG. And I'm going to go ahead and save that one as my interior page. And I'm just going to put princess. And then my cover would be this one. And technically, this is in and of itself a single page book. It is literally the outside of the book and printed inside. So technically, if you want to go ahead and print this out and use it for an activity, you can. I would also suggest that if you want to add some extra pages to do that over in Canva, is a little bit easier to see where your pages are, but you can absolutely do that in Photoshop too. So I'm going to right click, quick export as PNG for my cover here. And then this is going to be my cover princess. And that is it, my loves. So you have some pre-work to do. Make sure that you have your images. If you don't have your own images that you did in AI class on Monday, I will be giving you a folder that has sample images in it so that you can play around with pulling those in and doing the exact same steps as everyone who did pull in their AI artwork. All right, so that's it. Listen, I appreciate you and I love you dearly. And until next time. Bye.